Would you ever go underwater diving into a cave nicknamed the Cave of Death for fun? What started out as friends embarking on an adventure soon turned into a very deadly mistake. When they realized what was going on, it was already too late. 4 people were found dead in a water-filled tunnel in Dead Man's Cave on Y Mountain, Utah. Police identified the victims as J. Blake Donner, 24, of Springville, Jennifer Lynn Galbraith, 21, of Pleasant Grove, Scott K. McDonald, 28, of Provo, and Ariel Singer, 18, of Orem. On August 17, 2005, 5 friends were having dinner in Provo, Utah, when one of the girls, Jennifer, mentioned Gollum's cave, which she had previously visited. She also mentioned on a prior visit that the water was so cold she passed out, or nearly passed out. She was also treated for hypothermic symptoms during her previous visit. The group aptly dubbed it the Cave of Death, and decided to visit that fateful night, unknowingly walking into an inescapable destiny. A 5th friend, Joseph Ferguson, 26, of Reno, traveled to the cave at 3 a.m. Ferguson had planned to enter the chamber as well, but wisely changed his mind. This cave is near BYU's iconic Y Mountain in Provo, Utah. Some students refer to it as the Cave of Death or Gollum Cave, but it was and remains absolutely unknown to the majority of the people. A few people knew where it was, but it had mostly faded into public memory. It wasn't very far up the mountain, but it was hidden by some bushes, making it difficult to find. To make matters worse, the entrance was a slit in the rock that was readily overlooked. The cave was flooded and only 4 feet tall, so it was more of a crawl space. The true risk was a 15-foot water-filled tunnel that measured 18 by 20 inches and ran from one side of the cave's entry to the other. Jennifer led the way excitedly, thinking this was going to be another great adventure that she'd be able to cross off of her checklist, and was followed into the dark, terrifying cave by Blake Donner, Scott McDonald, and Ariel Singer. They dropped into a water hole about 4 feet deep and swam another 12 to 15 feet underwater toward another chamber where there's 2 to 3 feet of breathing space. Jennifer vanished under the chilly water, and the rest of her friends lowered themselves into the same narrow passage, believing that the other had made it safely over. But none of them survived to tell the tale about what really happened in that cave. The explorers were wearing shorts and sandals and were equipped only with a flashlight. A rope is tied from the entrance of the water hole through the tunnel to the cavern on the other side to help spelunkers get through the tunnel. The 4 of them didn't appear to have used the rope, which means they may have easily missed the cave opening, become disoriented, and drowned as a result. As you might expect, the small tunnel could only accommodate 1 person at a time, so each companion probably entered the water expecting a clear exit, but instead encountered an obstacle as each friend ran out of air before reaching the exit. This would explain why all of the friends were discovered facing the same exit hole, one after the other. A caver who had previously survived the hazardous swim reported that he did not utilize the rope and wound up at a dead end of rocks after missing the cave entry. He had to push himself backward till he reached the doorway, but that one mistake nearly killed him. Yet there's no accuracy to that assumption. After all, it is but an assumption. What might have happened down there could have been completely different from our interpretation of the events. Another possibility is that the 4 could have made it to the other opening of the cave, but were killed by the high concentration of nitrogen underground. There would have only been 20.9% oxygen, which would have been used up rapidly after the group exited the water, replacing any oxygen with carbon dioxide. It would have only been a matter of minutes before they were out of breath and had difficulty even thinking, making it even more difficult for them to complete their evacuation and swim back to the cave's entrance. When the group hadn't returned by 6:25 a.m., the 5th friend started getting anxious. He waited approximately 45 minutes for the 4 to return before summoning other friends who were familiar with the cave. Ferguson became increasingly concerned and dialed 911 at 6:30 a.m., leading rescuers to arrive. Utah County Sheriff Lieutenant Dave Bennett said that if one of the victims drowned, they could have prevented others from getting through. Emergency teams used sump pumps to remove around 6 inches of water from the passageway and pumped oxygen into the cave. The confined space rescue team from Orem assisted, according to Provo police spokesperson Karen Maney, but the teams were unfamiliar with the cave and its layout. The rescuers took all precautions to avoid accidents, using gas and oxygen sensors, wearing wetsuits and carrying supplied air in a small container. After the water level dropped around 6 inches, search and rescue personnel uncovered the body of a female, identified as the 18-year-old Ariel by some accounts. As the water continued to fall, the second body of a guy, as well as the other 2 bodies nearby, were discovered at the bottom. The deaths were judged to be drownings by the medical examiner. Some suspected that they were either intoxicated or high, although there was no evidence to support this. In the far cavern, search and rescue discovered a few candles. 2 flashlights were also discovered in the water tunnel that appeared to belong to the group, but it was unclear whether they belonged to the friends or earlier visitors. Some assumed that the group brought the candles and lit them in the cavern, consuming the oxygen and leaving them without air. The companions would then have attempted to swim back down the tunnel with less oxygen than usual, at which time the lead person may have passed out or become disoriented, blocking the underwater passageway for the rest of them. According to another story published a year after the disaster, a sensor later measured the oxygen concentration at only 19%. However, this raises the question of why the levels were so low when oxygen was pumped into the cave. Perhaps it wasn't pumped in for a long enough period before the dead were discovered, or perhaps the oxygen never made it to the far cavern. Others thought that the friends emerged from the water tunnel into a room filled with foul air, which may often gather in caverns. It may be harmful, but even if it's not, it can prevent oxygen from entering the space properly. The Provo Police Department trains each year for cave rescues, but this rescue was unique in that it involved water. According to Billings, the cave is man-made, possibly an old abandoned mine shaft or access tunnel. Authorities sealed the cave with cement to prevent further disaster, and a plaque stands in memory of the deceased. Friends of the deceased visit the cave to pay their respects and leave handprints on the wet concrete. So from a group dinner, to a cave, to exploration, to a group drowning. This was definitely one tragedy that their families would never forget. But, my intrepid viewers, the question still remains. What really happened in that cave? Was it all just natural causes, or is there a possibility that we're too scared to talk about?